Before you scroll, listen to this carefully. If you've been feeling disconnected lately, from people, from places, from conversations, from environments that once felt normal to you, that is not random. And the reason this hurts so much is because part of you keeps trying to go back to a version of your life that God is already pulling you away from. There are moments in life where you suddenly realize you don't feel the same anymore. You sit in the same places, but something feels different. You talk to the same people, but the connection feels weaker. You go back to environments that once felt familiar, and suddenly, you feel out of place, like you no longer belong there. And that feeling can be deeply confusing, because nothing externally changed overnight. The places are still there, the people are still there, the routines are still there. But inside you, something shifted. And at first, you resist it. You try to reconnect. You try to force yourself to feel the same way again. You try to hold on to what once felt comfortable, because familiarity feels safe, even when it no longer aligns. And that is where the internal battle begins, because one part of you knows something has changed, but another part of you keeps grieving the old version of your life, the version where everything felt easier, the version where you still fit into places that now drain you. And that grief is real, because outgrowing something often feels like losing it, even when it's necessary, even when it's healthy, even when it's part of your growth, because humans naturally try to hold on to what feels familiar, even when familiar is no longer good for them. And that's why so many people stay stuck, not because they are meant to stay there, but because they are emotionally attached to who they used to be, to what they used to tolerate, to what they used to accept. But growth changes your tolerance. Growth changes your awareness. Growth changes your spirit. And once that change begins, you cannot fully return to your old life, because your spirit recognizes what your mind is still trying to deny. You are changing. And because you are changing, certain things no longer fit. Certain conversations feel empty. Certain environments feel heavy. Certain people feel distant. Not because you hate them, not because you think you're better than them, but because you are no longer aligned with that version of yourself. And that realization can feel lonely, because growth is lonely sometimes, especially when God starts separating you from what no longer belongs in your life. And that separation does not always happen dramatically. Sometimes it happens quietly, slowly, almost invisibly. You stop feeling connected. You stop feeling fulfilled. You stop feeling at peace in places that once felt normal. And you don't fully understand why, until one day you realize God was pulling you away, not to punish you, not to isolate you, but to protect your growth. Because not every environment can carry your next season. Not every relationship can follow you into your future. Not every version of your life can come with you where God is taking you. And that is hard to accept, because sometimes you still love what no longer aligns. You still care about people who no longer understand you. You still miss places that no longer feel right. And that creates emotional conflict, because your heart remembers the comfort while your spirit recognizes the misalignment. And in that tension, many people try to shrink themselves again, to reconnect with old patterns, to force old connections, to go back to old environments, just so they don't have to feel the discomfort of change. But the problem is, once God opens your eyes, you cannot pretend anymore. You cannot unknow what you now feel. You cannot force peace in a place your spirit has already outgrown. And that's why returning feels so heavy. Because you are trying to reconnect with something that no longer matches who you are becoming. And right now, that is exactly what God is trying to show you. You are not too sensitive. You are not overthinking. You are becoming aware of what drains you, aware of what limits you, aware of what no longer belongs in your life. And awareness changes everything, because once you become aware, you begin to move differently. You begin protecting your peace differently. You begin choosing differently. You begin separating yourself from things that once felt normal. And that shift is not random, it is spiritual. Because God is not just changing your circumstances, He is changing you, your spirit, your standards, your discernment, the way you feel energy around you, the way you recognize what aligns and what no longer does. And that transformation is necessary for your next season, because where God is taking you requires a different version of you, a version that cannot stay emotionally attached to places that no longer bring peace, a version that cannot keep abandoning themselves just to feel accepted, a version that understands that growth sometimes requires separation, and that separation is not rejection, it is redirection. Because God is not removing you from those environments to leave you empty. He is removing you because you no longer belong there. Your spirit knows it. Your peace knows it. Your intuition knows it. Even if your emotions are still catching up. And the more you ignore that truth, the heavier everything feels. Because your soul becomes exhausted, trying to survive in places it has already outgrown. And that exhaustion is the sign. Not a sign that something is wrong with you, but a sign that something is changing within you. Something deep, something spiritual, something irreversible. Because once growth begins, there is no going back to being unaware. And that's why this season feels different. Because this is not just change. This is transformation, and transformation always separates you from the version of life that no longer aligns with who you are becoming. So stop forcing yourself to stay connected to things that no longer bring you peace. Stop blaming yourself for changing. Stop feeling guilty for outgrowing environments that your spirit no longer feels safe in. Because this is not failure, this is alignment. This is God pulling you away from what cannot go with you into your next season. And one day, you will thank Him for it. One day, you will realize that the distance, the disconnection, the discomfort was not punishment. It was protection. It was preparation. It was God teaching you that your future required separation from your past. So let this be your prayer. God, help me release what no longer aligns with who I am becoming. Help me stop forcing connections that no longer bring peace into my life, and give me the strength to trust the places you are pulling me away from. Because I know if you removed me, there was a reason. If you feel this, comment, God pulled me away, and subscribe for daily reflections.